Indonesia received 1.389 million doses of AstraZeneca vaccines from COVAX facility. Telkomsel injects $300 million into Gojek. Good afternoon, viewers. Market Headlines is ready to provide you a number of information from business, economic, and capital market sector. With me, Lantai Wijaya, and this is Market Headlines. And yes, viewers, Indonesia received another COVID-19 vaccine from COVAX facility. Foreign Minister Retno Marsudi welcomed the arrival of the vaccine, which consisted of 1.389 million doses of AstraZeneca vaccines.
Indonesia received another COVID-19 vaccine from the COVAX facility on Saturday last week. Foreign Minister Retno Marsudi welcomed the arrival of the vaccine, which consisted of 1.389 million doses of AstraZeneca vaccine. The AstraZeneca vaccine arrived on a Qatar Airlines transport plane at Soekarno-Hatta International Airport.
Jumlah vaksin AstraZeneca dalam bentuk vaksin jadi yang tiba pada pagi ini adalah sebesar 1.389.600 dosis. Di samping itu, pada tanggal 6 Mei 2021 telah mendahului tiba 55.300 dosis vaksin AstraZeneca. Dengan demikian, maka jumlah vaksin batch ketiga yang diterima pada minggu ini dari COVAX Facility adalah sebesar 1.444.900 dosis vaksin jadi AstraZeneca.
Retno added that until now, the Indonesian government had secured 75.91 million doses of COVID-19 vaccine, consisting of 68.5 million doses of Sinovac vaccine, 6.41 million doses of AstraZeneca COVAX, and 1 million doses of Sinopharm. Moreover, even though the government has secured millions of vaccine doses, the minister reminded that the spread of the COVID-19 is still happening. Therefore, he asked the public to remain vigilant. IDX Channel Team reported.
The Ministry of Transportation stated that the movement of vehicles and passengers decreased significantly during the period of the homecoming ban. However, the movement of logistic transportation is considered to remain stable.
The Ministry of Transportation stated that the movement of vehicles and passengers decreased significantly during the period of the homecoming ban. However, the movement of logistics transportation is considered to remain stable. This is based on the results of a survey by the Minister of Transportation Budi Karya Sumadi to the Bakauheni and Merak crossing ports, as well as the sealing post at the Pejagan toll gate Central Java. He said that transportation control, especially in the air, sea and rail sectors, went well during the period of the homecoming ban. It can be seen from the air transport that fell by 93%, sea transportation fell by 90%, and railways fell by 90%.
Sedang tanggal 6 Mei sampai 9 Mei yang kita evaluasi, terjadi penurunan yang signifikan. Kalau dari normal itu di udara penurunan sampai 93%, kalau di laut kereta api itu kira-kira 90%, di darat memang sedikit penurunan kira-kira 40%. Nah, oleh karenanya kami selaku penyelenggara mengapresiasi masyarakat memberikan suatu respon yang baik tentang upaya pembiayaan mudik yang efektif. Tetapi untuk sektor logistik hanya turun kira-kira 3-5%. Artinya rencana kita untuk melakukan peniadaan mudik pada penumpang dan memberikan seluas-luasnya pergerakan pada logistik itu terjadi dengan baik.
Despite the challenges, the minister assessed that the implementation of the homecoming ban remains under control. This cannot be separated from the application of layered installation by the officers, so that if there are people who pass at the starting point, there will be more installation at the next point. Thus, it can reduce the potential for loopholes. IDX Channel team reported.
Few more days to Eid al-Fitr, the state-owned electricity company, or a PLN, stated that predicts that there will be an increase in electricity demand up to 2% compared to the last year. Counting days to Eid al-Fitr, Jakarta Distribution Unit of State Electricity Company makes sure that the power will be sufficient in Eid al-Fitr 2021. Dodi Pangaribuan, as the General Manager of Distribution Unit of PLN Jakarta area, stated that the electricity demand will increase as much as 2% due to government's policy on homecoming ban. In PLN's review to Istiqlal Mosque, he ensures that electricity is supplied by 59 main substations. It is predicted that the maximum power of this year, Eid al-Fitr, will reach around 3,103 megawatt. While in the other hand, last year Eid al-Fitr absorbed power around 5,000 megawatt.
Nah, kalau dari tahun lalu, kita proyeksikan akan naik 2%. Ya. Biasanya memang turun ini karena memang mudik dilarang, ya, maka beban ini relatif stabil bahkan naik ya. Tahun ini dari tahun lalu sekitar 2% di level 3.100 megawatt. Ya. Sementara pasokan kita, kesiapan kita bisa sampai dengan 10.000. Jadi insya Allah cadangan kita cukup, ya. Kemudian listrik kita aman. Bagi warga Jakarta yang memang tidak ada keperluan mendesak, kami siap menyamankan para pelanggan kami. Jangan mudik sesuai dengan himbauan pemerintah. Dan
with the projected increase in electricity consumption, Dodi confirmed PLN Disjaya's readiness to maintain electricity supply during the Eid al-Fitr. From Jakarta, Adi Firmansyah, IDX Channel. Confederations of Indonesian Prosperity Labor Union confirmed that there is no report from workers who hasn't got religious holiday allowance. So far, the reports are from business owners that cannot pay religious holiday allowance to their workers. Sunardi, as the consolidation's deputy of the union, said that the workers have not yet officially stated issue regarding a religious holiday allowance. Sunardi stated that there is still tomorrow or day -1 to Eid al-Fitr for business workers to pay allowance to the workers, and therefore many workers are waiting for the payment. And in fact, Minister of Manpower recorded that the reports are dominantly by the business owners. They cannot pay religious holiday allowance to their workers. Sunardi hopes that both business owners and workers can find win-win solutions regarding religious holiday allowance payment.
Pada waktu launching posko THR itu, kita hanya mendampingi Bu Menteri pada waktu itu. Nah, ini beritanya sudah muncul bahwa 417 pengaduan itu sudah masuk di Kementerian Tenaga Kerja. Didominasi oleh pengusaha karena masa pemberian itu kan H-7. Nah, kalau H-7 terus pekerja laporkannya nggak mungkin gitu. Pasti itu yang lapor adalah pengusaha. Tapi memang ada beberapa perusahaan yang saya dekat dengan pengusaha itu, dia mengatakan saya nggak mampu.
Stay tuned to market headlines because we will be right back after this quick break.
Benarkah tren transisi ke energi baru dan terbarukan tidak membuat industri energi fosil lantas surut? Seperti apa dampaknya terhadap sektor migas?
Turunnya atau rendahnya harga minyak dan gas yang sangat drastis turunnya, adanya pandemi yang membuat terbatasnya pergerakan.
Langkah yang dilakukan apa nih Pak?
Hingga hari ini saya kira brand hari ini sekitar 55. Ini sesuatu yang positif untuk industri yang itu kira.
Indeks harga saham gabungan bergerak fluktuatif.
Nilai tukar rupiah terhadap dolar Amerika Serikat sedikit mengalami apresiasi.
Bagaimana dengan target pertumbuhan ekonomi Indonesia di kuartal 1 tahun ini?
Sehingga pada kuartal 1 tahun 2021 diperkirakan ekonomi akan mengalami kontraksi, akan mengalami penurunan.
Faktor-faktor utama dalam penolakan dari Uni Eropa terkait produk sawit Indonesia.
Indonesia disebut belum mampu menerapkan standar lingkungan yang cukup dan juga standar keberlanjutan yang cukup.
Pemerintah secara resmi melarang mudik lebaran pada tahun 2021 ini.
Larangan mudik akan dimulai pada tanggal 6 Mei sampai dengan 17 Mei 2021.
Majelis Ulama Indonesia memperbolehkan penggunaan vaksin COVID-19 untuk produk AstraZeneca pada saat ini.
Penggunaan vaksin COVID-19 produk AstraZeneca pada saat ini hukumnya dibolehkan.
Welcome back to Market Headlines. Holding company of Indonesia's mining industry, or MIND, is about to go public. And right now, MIND is in the process of separating its subsidiary, which is IndiHome Operating. And soon, IndiHome Operating will go public as well.
The plan to separate IndiHome Operating from MIND is targeted to be completed in this year. Therefore, IndiHome Operating can go public next year, and afterwards, MIND will go public as well. President Director of MIND Orias Petrus Mudak said that this step was a part of IndiHome Operating's preparations for initial public offering. Nevertheless, Orias said that he was still looking for various opportunities before the company decided to go on an IPO. For example, getting many new projects so that investors can be attracted. If nothing gets in the way, the target is MIND can enter the pipeline in 2023. From all sources, IDX Channel.
Investors, be ready. There will be the most exciting initial public offerings because government is targeting 10 to 15 state-owned enterprises to go public until 2023. And one of them is the holding for mining industry, which is Mining Industry Indonesia, or well known as MIND. Before we examine more about the IPO plan, let's take a look at the financial performance in the next graphic. Here it is. Through the next graphic, we can see the financial performance of MIND, starting from the revenue in 2020. The company recorded revenue of 66.5 trillion rupiah. And for the net income, the company recorded 1.82 trillion rupiah. For the assets, the company recorded 180 trillion rupiah. For the cash, the company recorded 23 trillion rupiah. And for the debt to equity ratio, it takes 1.3 times. So this is a good financial performance so far. The growth in the company's operational and financial performance in 2020 is a reflection of mining industry as a strategic sector that can support the national economy during the pandemic. Seems like a robust financial performance can be a good start for planning an IPO, right? But hold on, there is one thing to do before MIND launch its initial public offering. First, MIND must be separated first with its subsidiary IndiHome Operating. The interesting part is that IndiHome Operating will go public as well. As the CEO said that before go public, MIND and IndiHome Operating must first separate as independent companies. So this year, company will focus on separating Inalum Operating and Mind ID. And for the next years after the separation, the Inalum Operating IPO is targeted to be achieved. And the year after, Mind ID will conduct an IPO. However, there's something interesting about the Mind ID initial public offering plan. How could it not be? This holding, which was formed by the former CSOE's Minister Rini Sumarno, has a huge assets in the form of a Freeport and Vale Indonesia shares. Let's see the structure in the next graphic. Here it is. We can see the structure of Mind ID. We can see there are Antam, Bukit Asam, Timah, and Freeport Indonesia, and also Vale Indonesia, and also the Mind ID itself by 100% of ownership. But then let's take a look at Antam. So Mind ID has 65% of the Antam shares, and Bukit Asam by 65.93%, and Timah by 65%, and Vale Indonesia by 20%. And the key is that overall, Mind ID has 51% shares of the Freeport Indonesia, which is in 2018 was bought for $3.85 billion US. The share was bought from the global bonds offered by the company at that time. So there's no further explanations about Mind ID about the Freeport shares. And with all the shares owned by Mind ID, how about the revenue of Mind ID? So we will see it in the next graphic. Through the next graphic, we can see the revenue of Mind ID in 2020. So there are revenue streams. First of all, it's aluminum, tins, nickel ore, coal, ferronickel, gold, and also other. Well, we can say that aluminum costs it like for 10% of the revenue, tins for 21% of the revenue, nickel ore for 3% of the revenue, and coal by 26% of the revenue. But in total, Mind ID has recorded a total revenue of 66.6 trillion rupiah in 2020, and the largest contributor to the company's revenue came from gold, amounting to 29.1%. And because of the revenue, the company managed to record a high net profit of 1.8 trillion rupiah, or an increase of 7,000% compared to the 2019 of 24.5 billion rupiah only. With that huge amount of revenue, we will instantly think that the company is very confident to launch IPO. But the CEO says otherwise. Mind ID must have new projects before going public to attract investors. The project must be outside of the strategic projects that currently being carried out by Mind ID. So therefore, let's see the strategic projects in the next graphic. Here it is. We can see some of the strategic projects that is Mind ID is currently undergone. First of all, we see the iconic Indonesia Battery Corporations of IBC. And the next one is the coal gasification, smelter-grade alumina refinery. It's Mangivera Veronica plant steam-powered electric power plant, and then the copper smelter. And these are the strategic projects of Mind ID. But however, it is important to attract investors because the ministry is targeting at least around 14 state-owned enterprises to go public in the next few years. So Mind ID has to compete to attract investors with the companies include Pertamina International Shipping, Pertamina Geothermal Energy, Pertamina Hulu Steam Power Plant, Pertamina Hilir, and also we got Indonesia Healthcare Corporations and also BioPharma Vaccine. And yes, there are soon to go public companies as well that are going to have a jumbo IPO as well, such as EDC and Payment Gateway Himbara, Pupuk Kalimantan Timur, Diameter Telekomunikasi or Metrotel, or so, Telkom Data Center. So the more strategic projects Mind ID undergo, the more interesting it is for investors to take a look on Mind ID stocks later. So in light of this, it seems like a good thing that the momentum will continue for MindID initial public offering. So we can put the conclusions that MindID's IPO is one of the most anticipated upcoming IPOs for the upcoming years. Stay with us because market headlines will be right back after this quick break.
Dengan terbentuknya Kementerian Investasi di bawah kepemimpinan Bahlil Lahadalia, pemerintah berharap target investasi bisa mencapai ratusan triliun rupiah hingga akhir tahun. Apa tanggapan para pengusaha lokal mengenai hal ini? Saksikan spesial dialog Kejar Target Investasi bersama John Palinggi, Dewan Penasehat Kadin DKI Jakarta, tentunya hanya di IDX Channel.
Jadi kesulitan kalau mau gunting rambut, mau perawatan rambut itu kan memang belum ada salon khusus muslimah. Ya udahlah, aku waktu itu optimis aja gitu kan ya, bismillah, karena ngelihat pasti banyak yang kayak aku yang kesulitan.
Kunci sukses dari seorang Ibu Yulia itu sebenarnya apa?
Aku pede aja deh bikin one stop service salon, itu cuma satu lantai gitu kan.
Berkah kedamaian Ramadan dengan beragam program spesial IDX Channel. Arjuna hadir setiap hari jam 5:30 sore. Rahmatan lil alamin setiap hari menjelang azan maghrib. Urban Street Food hadir setiap hari jam 6 sore. Syariah Economic bersama Ustadz Hilman Fauzi setiap hari jam 8 malam. Hanya di IDX Channel spesial Ramadan.
Indeks harga saham gabungan bergerak fluktuatif.
Nilai tukar rupiah terhadap dolar Amerika Serikat sedikit mengalami apresiasi.
Bagaimana dengan target pertumbuhan ekonomi Indonesia di kuartal 1 tahun ini?
Sehingga pada kuartal 1 tahun 2021 diperkirakan ekonomi akan mengalami kontraksi, akan mengalami penurunan.
Faktor-faktor utama dalam penolakan dari Uni Eropa terkait produk sawit Indonesia.
Indonesia disebut belum mampu menerapkan standar lingkungan yang cukup dan juga standar keberlanjutan yang cukup.
Welcome back to Market Headlines. So viewers, let's take a look at Jakarta Composite Index intraday movement. So earlier today, JCI was open at a level of 5,949.14 and approaching the closing time of the first session, the index was on the level of 5,933.3 and the index was showing strengthening trend by the second session closing time. The index was closed at a level of 5,975.79. In short, JCI went up 0.8%. And moving on to the top gainers and the top losers, here are the key highlights from today's trading sessions. We got ANTM that went up 2.29% to the level of 2,680 rupiah per share. We got MDKA that went up 4.14% to the level of 2,770 rupiah per share. We got INCO that went up 7.35% to the level of 5,475 rupiah per share, and Unilever Indonesia by the number that went up 3.17% to the level of 5,700 rupiah per share. Meantime, for the top losers for today's trading sessions, we got Telkom Indonesia that went down 0.63%. We got Zinc that went down 2.09%. We got Bull that went down by 3.14%. And also we got BBNI that went down 0.45%. Next, we're going to see the intraday movement of rupiah towards US dollar. So rupiah opened at a level of 14,289. Rupiah was also showing strengthening trend towards US dollar. I was closed at the level of 14,183. In summary, rupiah went up 0.74%. After injecting funds into Gojek in November 2020, Telkomsel was recently known to have re-injected funds to the giant startup with a total investment of $300 million.
A subsidiary of Telkom Indonesia, Telkomsel is reinvesting in Gojek. This time, the value reached $300 million or equivalent to 4.4 trillion rupiah. Gojek Group co-CEO Andres Sulistyo said the cooperation between the two companies through this investment will support the acceleration of Indonesia's digital transformation, which will strengthen Indonesia's position as the leader of the digital economy market in Southeast Asia. Meantime, President Director of Telkomsel, Setianto Hantoro, said that this corporate action was part of Telkomsel's strategy to strengthen the company's digital business trifecta. For information, this is the second investment made by Telkomsel in Gojek. Previously, in November 2020, Telkomsel injected $150 million. This investment also received support from two of Telkomsel's holding companies, namely Telkom Indonesia and Singtel Group. IDX Channel team reported.
Supported by the bright prospects for industrial land, Pura Delta Lestari achieved positive performance throughout the first quarter of 2021.
Supported by prospects for industrial areas and land that are still bright, Pura Delta Lestari, which has achieved positive performance throughout the first quarter of 2021, is optimistic that performance growth can continue until the end of this year. Until the first quarter, Pura Delta has obtained marketing sales of 288 billion rupiah, or around 11.4% of this year's target. The achievement of marketing sales in the early period of this year mainly came from the sale of industrial land. Pura Delta is optimistic that the marketing sales target can be achieved by the end of the year due to high demand for industrial land which is being negotiated. There are still at least 75 hectares of industrial land demand coming from the data center, automotive, and other sectors. As a result, in the first quarter of 2021, the company managed to book operating revenues of 533.6 billion rupiah, or skyrocketed 395.77% year-on-year. Meantime, the net profit also increased by 407.36% year-on-year to 270.73 billion rupiah. IDX Channel team reported.
Step aside from market conditions as coronavirus pandemic takes a big role on current economic situations. Here it is an update data about coronavirus globally. Close our market headlines today. Please enjoy our next program on IDX Channel, your trustworthy academic business and capital market channel. Postponing your homecoming is in this 8-hour elevator is not only important, but it is protecting your loved ones as well. I'm Clara Wijaya. Have a nice evening and stay safe.